The crack of a gunshot split the dry Arizona air as Lily Redmond watched in horror from the window of her father's modest ranch house. It wasn't the sound that chilled her blood, it was what it meant. Time had run out, and her father's debts had come due at last. The year was 1873, and in Sagebrush Springs, Arizona Territory, promises were kept or paid for in blood. "Pa!" she cried, rushing to the door where her father stumbled in, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Henry Redmond's face was ashen, his once proud frame now bent with worry and pain. "They're coming, Lily. Blackwell's men." He collapsed into a chair, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "I couldn't pay them. I tried everything." Lily, 22 and with a spirit as wild as the western landscape, tore a strip from her apron and pressed it to her father's wound. Her hands trembled, but her voice remained steady. "How much time do we have?" "None." Her father's eyes welled with tears. "I've done something terrible, girl, something unforgivable." Before he could elaborate, the door burst open. 3 men entered, dust coating their long coats, their expressions grim beneath their hats. The leader, a tall man with a scar running from his eye to his chin, smiled without warmth. "Time's up, Redmond," he announced, surveying the modest home with contempt. "Mr. Blackwell's patience has expired along with your extension." Lily stood protectively in front of her father. "Please, we need more time. Your cattle died in the drought, same as half the territories," the scarred man interrupted. "But Mr. Blackwell is a businessman. And your father," he pointed at Henry with a gloved finger, "made him an offer to settle the debt." Lily looked at her father, confusion clouding her face. "Pa, what's he talking about?" Henry couldn't meet her eyes. "I'm sorry, Lily, I had no choice." The scarred man's smile widened. "Your father offered you as payment, Miss Redmond. Your services at Mr. Blackwell's establishment in town will clear his debts." Lily felt the floor shift beneath her. "What services?" "The kind that pretty girls provide to lonely men with money," he replied, his eyes traveling over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "No," she gasped, backing away. "I won't go." "Then your father hangs before sundown," the man stated flatly. "And you'll come anyway, make it easy on yourself." Henry grabbed her hand, his grip weak. "I'm dying anyway, Lily. The consumption. This way you'll live." Tears streamed down her face as the reality of her situation crashed over her. Her father had sold her to pay his gambling debts, sold her to work in Gerald Blackwell's notorious saloon where women were little more than property. "You have 10 minutes to pack," the scarred man said, checking his pocket watch. "Only what you can carry." With shaking hands and a heart turned to stone, Lily gathered her few belongings. A dress her mother had made, a tarnished silver hairbrush, a small Bible. The men watched her every move, their presence a constant threat. When they dragged her from the only home she'd ever known, Lily looked back one last time at her father. He wept silently in the doorway, a broken man who'd sacrificed his daughter to save himself. "I'll come back for you," she promised, though she had no idea how. The ride to town was silent except for the creak of saddle leather and the occasional comment between her captors. Lily sat stiffly in front of the scarred man, her small bundle clutched to her chest, her mind racing for a way out of this nightmare. Sagebrush Springs appeared on the horizon, a dusty collection of wooden buildings strung along a single main street. At the far end stood Blackwell's Palace, a 2-story structure with painted windows and a gaudy sign. Even in daylight, piano music spilled from its doors along with raucous laughter. As they approached, a lone rider appeared from a side street. He sat tall in the saddle atop a magnificent black stallion, his broad shoulders squared beneath a worn leather vest. A dusty Stetson cast shadows across his face, but Lily could see he was watching their approach with interest. "Looks like we've caught Mitchell Prescott's attention," one of the men muttered. "Blackwell won't like that." The scarred man spat in the dirt. "Mind your business, Prescott," he called as they neared. The rider Mitchell Prescott didn't move from their path. His horse stood steady as a rock as they were forced to stop before him. "3 men escorting 1 woman," he observed, his voice deep and calm. His eyes, clear blue against sun-bronzed skin, found Lily's. "Everything all right, madam?" Before Lily could answer, the scarred man tightened his arm around her waist. "This is Blackwell's business, Cowboy. Step aside." Mitchell's gaze never left Lily's face. "I'm asking the lady." "They're taking me to Blackwell's," Lily said quickly, seeing her first glimmer of hope. "My father owed—" "Shut your mouth," the scarred man hissed, clamping a hand over her lips. In one fluid motion, Mitchell Prescott's revolver appeared in his hand, hammer cocked. "Take your hand off her. Now." The tension in the air thickened. The scarred man slowly removed his hand from Lily's mouth but kept his arm around her waist. "This ain't your concern, Prescott. The girl's payment for her father's debts, fair and square." Mitchell's expression hardened. "There's nothing fair about selling a woman." He nodded toward the saloon. "Let's talk to Blackwell." "You'll regret interfering," the scarred man warned, but he nudged his horse forward. The small procession moved down the main street, drawing curious stares from townsfolk. Lily felt a strange mix of shame and hope. This stranger had no reason to help her, yet something in his steady gaze made her believe he might. Gerald Blackwell was waiting on the porch of his establishment, a corpulent man in an expensive suit that strained across his belly. His small eyes lit with interest as he saw the approaching riders. "Ah, my investment arrives," he called, his voice jovial as if welcoming a guest. His smile faltered when he spotted Mitchell. "What brings you here, Prescott?" Mitchell dismounted in one smooth motion, tying his horse to the hitching post. "Came to discuss a business proposition." Blackwell's eyebrow arched. "Business hours start at noon. This won't wait." Mitchell climbed the steps until he stood eye level with the saloon owner. His voice dropped, but Lily could still hear him. "How much does Redmond owe you?" Blackwell laughed. "More than you can afford, Cowboy." "The debt's settled now anyway," he gestured toward Lily. "A fair trade." "Name your price," Mitchell insisted. The saloon owner studied him with newfound interest. $800. Cash," Lily gasped. It was an astronomical sum, more than most men earned in years. Mitchell didn't flinch. "I'll need to ride to the bank in Carson City. I'll be back by tomorrow noon." Blackwell's laughter boomed across the street. "And I'm supposed to just wait? Hold off on breaking in my new girl on your promise. I'll leave collateral." Mitchell reached inside his vest and produced a folded document. "Deed to my ranch, worth 3 times what Redmond owes you." The saloon owner's greedy eyes widened as he snatched the paper, examining it carefully. After a long moment, he tucked it into his coat pocket. "The girl stays here tonight. You have until noon tomorrow. If you're not back with my money," he smiled coldly, "I get your ranch and the girl." Mitchell nodded once. "I'll be back." He turned to Lily, his expression softening slightly. "Miss Redmond, you have my word." As he mounted his stallion, Lily found her voice. "Why are you doing this?" He settled his hat lower over his eyes. "Some things shouldn't be for sale." With that, he spurred his horse and galloped away, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Blackwell grabbed Lily's arm roughly. "Let's get you settled, my dear. You'll stay in my private quarters tonight just to ensure our cowboy friend keeps his word." Lily was led through the saloon, past curious stares and leering grins, to a room at the back of the building. It was lavishly furnished with a large bed and heavy curtains that blocked out the desert sun. "Make yourself comfortable," Blackwell said, his eyes roaming over her. You're either going to be free tomorrow or working off your father's debt for a very long time." When the door locked behind him, Lily sank onto the bed, her small bundle of possessions clutched to her chest. She had no reason to believe a stranger would return with such a sum to free her. Yet something about Mitchell Prescott's steady gaze and calm confidence made her wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, miracles still happened in this harsh land. As night fell, she listened to the saloon come alive with music and laughter, the sounds of a world she now stood at the threshold of entering. She prayed as she'd never prayed before for her father, for herself, and for a dark-haired cowboy riding hard toward Carson City. Mitchell Prescott rode through the night, pushing his stallion to its limits. The animal was strong, bred for the harsh desert terrain, but even it needed rest. He stopped only once, at a way station halfway to Carson City, changing to a fresh mount and continuing his journey. His mind was fixed on the girl with fiery determination in her eyes despite her circumstances. He'd seen Lily Redmond around town occasionally, usually accompanying her father on supply runs. He knew Henry Redmond as a once prosperous rancher who'd fallen on hard times and turned to gambling. The man's weakness was well known, but Mitchell had never imagined he'd sell his own daughter to cover his debts. The eastern sky was lightening when Mitchell reached Carson City. He rode directly to the Territorial Bank, dismounting before the building had even opened for business. When the bank manager arrived, Mitchell was waiting. "Mr. Prescott," the manager greeted him with surprise. "You're a long way from Sagebrush Springs." "I need to make a withdrawal," Mitchell said without preamble. $800. The manager's eyebrows rose. "That's a significant sum." "May I ask?" "You may not," Mitchell interrupted. "I have the funds. I need them now." 20 minutes later, he emerged with a heavy pouch of coins and notes. He tucked it securely inside his vest, mounted his fresh horse, and turned back toward Sagebrush Springs. The return journey was even more grueling. The sun beat down mercilessly, and dust coated his throat. Mitchell had been a rancher for 10 years since coming west after the war between the states. He'd built his spread from nothing, working cattle drives and saving every penny. The deed he'd left with Blackwell represented everything he owned in the world, and he'd risked it all for a woman he barely knew. As he rode, Mitchell questioned his own sanity. Yet each time he pictured Lily Redmond being forced into a life of servitude and degradation, his resolve hardened. Some lines shouldn't be crossed, not even in the wild territories where law was often whatever the strongest man said it was. The sun was high overhead when Mitchell rode into Sagebrush Springs. Townsfolk stopped to stare as he passed, his horse lathered with sweat, dust coating both animal and rider. He made directly for Blackwell's palace, where a small crowd had already gathered in anticipation of the noon deadline. Gerald Blackwell stood on his porch, pocket watch in hand, a smug smile on his face. When he spotted Mitchell, the smile faltered slightly. "Right on time, Cowboy," he called as Mitchell dismounted. "I was just telling these fine citizens about our arrangement." Mitchell climbed the steps, aware of every eye upon him. "I have your money." Blackwell's smile disappeared entirely. He clearly hadn't expected Mitchell to return. "Well now, that is surprising. Where is Miss Redmond?" As if on cue, the saloon doors opened and Lily emerged, escorted by the scarred man. She looked exhausted but unharmed, her eyes lighting with disbelief when she saw Mitchell. "You came back," she whispered. "I gave my word." Mitchell turned to Blackwell, removing the pouch from inside his vest. $800, as agreed. The saloon owner's face twisted with disappointment as Mitchell counted out the money before the gathered crowd. When the last dollar was placed in Blackwell's palm, Mitchell extended his hand. "My deed." Blackwell reluctantly returned the document. "You're a fool, Prescott. She's not worth it." Mitchell's voice remained level. "That's not for you to decide." He turned to Lily. "Miss Redmond, you're free to go." The crowd murmured as Lily stepped forward, clutching her small bundle. "I have nowhere to go," she admitted quietly. Your father's been looked after," Mitchell said. "Doc Jenkins is with him. I stopped by your ranch on my way out of town last night." Tears sprang to Lily's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, the words wholly inadequate for what he'd done. Mitchell offered his arm. "I'll take you home." As they walked to his horse, the crowd parted. Some looked approving, others confused, but Mitchell paid them no mind. He helped Lily mount, then swung up behind her. "Hold on," he said softly, and urged his horse forward. They rode in silence through town, Lily acutely aware of the strong arm around her waist, so different from the threatening grip of Blackwell's man. When they reached the outskirts, she finally spoke. "Why did you do it? Risk everything for someone you don't even know?" Mitchell was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. When he did, his voice was thoughtful. "I've seen what happens to women in Blackwell's place. No one deserves that fate, especially not as payment for another's mistakes. But $800, your ranch. Money can be earned again." Lily turned slightly to look at his profile. "I'll repay you. Somehow I'll find a way." Mitchell shook his head. "I didn't do this for repayment, Miss Redmond." "Lily," she corrected softly. "Please call me Lily." The ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Lily." When they reached the Redmond ranch, Doc Jenkins was just leaving. The elderly physician looked grave as he approached them. "Miss Redmond," he greeted, helping her down from the horse. "Your father's asking for you. Well, you should go to him." Lily rushed inside, leaving Mitchell to speak with the doctor. "How bad is it?" Mitchell asked quietly. Doc Jenkins removed his spectacles, polishing them on his vest. "The gunshot wound isn't fatal, but the consumption has advanced rapidly. He's been hiding how sick he is." "I'd be surprised if he lasts the month." Mitchell nodded solemnly. "Does she know?" "I think she's suspected, but she'll need to prepare herself." The doctor glanced toward the house. "She'll need help. There's no family from what I understand." "I'll look in on them," Mitchell promised. Inside, Lily knelt beside her father's bed. Henry Redmond looked small beneath the blankets, his face gaunt, his breathing labored. "Lily," he whispered, reaching for her hand. "You came back." "Of course I came back," she said, fighting tears. "I'm home now." Her father's eyes filled with shame. "What I did, it's unforgivable. I was desperate, not thinking clearly. The consumption is taking me, and I thought Blackwell might give you some kind of life." Lily squeezed his hand. "There's nothing to forgive, Pa. You were sick and frightened. How did you get away?" He asked weakly. She told him about Mitchell Prescott, about the rancher's inexplicable generosity. Henry listened with growing wonder. "Mitchell Prescott," he repeated. "The man who owns the Triple P Ranch," Lily nodded. "Do you know him? By reputation?" "He came here about 10 years ago, built that ranch from nothing. Keeps to himself mostly." Henry coughed, a deep racking sound that shook his frail body. "They say he fought for the Union in the war, lost his family in it too." When the coughing subsided, he gripped her hand tightly. "Lily, listen to me. The ranch is gone. I mortgaged everything to Blackwell. When I'm gone, you'll have nothing." "Don't talk that way," she protested. "We'll find a way." Henry shook his head. "Promise me you'll accept help if it's offered." "No daughter of mine is going to work in some saloon, but your pride can't feed you either." Before she could answer, a knock came at the open door. Mitchell stood there, hat in hand. "I've brought supplies," he said, "and my ranch hand will be by tomorrow with some firewood." Henry beckoned him closer. "Mr. Prescott, I don't have words to thank you for what you've done." Mitchell approached the bed. "No thanks needed, sir. A man always needs to thank another who saves his daughter." Henry's voice was weak but determined. "I know what it cost you. $800 is more than most men see in a lifetime." "It's just money," Mitchell said simply. Henry's eyes were shrewd despite his illness. "You're a good man, Prescott, better than most." He looked at Lily. "My girl here is stubborn as they come, got her mother's spirit. She'll try to pay you back somehow." "Pa," Lily protested, embarrassed. "Let her," Henry continued as if she hadn't spoken. "Not the money, maybe, but let her find a way to thank you properly. Her pride needs it." Mitchell nodded solemnly. "I understand pride, Mr. Redmond." "Henry," the older man corrected. "A man who saves my daughter gets to use my given name." "Mitchell," came the response, and the two men shook hands. Over the next 3 weeks, Mitchell Prescott became a regular visitor at the Redmond ranch. True to his word, he sent supplies, firewood, and occasionally one of his ranch hands to help with repairs around the property. Lily tried to refuse his charity, but Mitchell was as stubborn as she was. "It's not charity," he insisted. "It's being neighborly." Henry's condition deteriorated rapidly, just as Doc Jenkins had predicted. The consumption ravaged his already weakened body, and soon he was confined to bed entirely. Lily rarely left his side, reading to him from the Bible or simply holding his hand as he drifted in and out of consciousness. Mitchell often found her asleep in the chair beside her father's bed, exhausted from the constant vigil. Without waking her, he would drape a blanket over her shoulders and take her place watching over Henry. Sometimes, when Lily woke, she'd find Mitchell talking quietly with her father, their heads close together, conversations that stopped when they noticed her. On a clear autumn morning with golden light streaming through the bedroom window, Henry Redmond drew his last breath. Lily and Mitchell were both with him, one on each side of the bed, holding his hands as he slipped away. The funeral was small, just Lily, Mitchell, Doc Jenkins, and a few neighbors. The preacher said words about resurrection and eternal life, but Lily heard none of it. All she could think was that she was now truly alone in the world, with nothing but a decaying ranch that technically belonged to Gerald Blackwell. As the last shovelful of dirt covered her father's grave, Mitchell approached her. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," he said quietly. "Mrs. Hernandez from town has offered to stay with you." Lily shook her head. "I need to be alone." Mitchell studied her face. "All right, but I'll be by tomorrow to check on you." True to his word, Mitchell arrived the following morning. He found Lily sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers, deeds, banknotes, debts. Her face was pale but composed. "It's worse than I thought," she said without preamble. "Pa owed everyone in 3 counties, it seems, and the ranch officially belongs to Blackwell now. He's just been letting us stay here out of." She searched for the right word. Amusement, I suppose, or maybe he was waiting for Pa to die. Mitchell sat across from her. "What will you do?" Lily looked up, her eyes reflecting a determination that impressed him. "I'm going to work. I'll pay off Pa's debts, every last one. I'll earn back this land." "It could take years," Mitchell said gently. "Then it takes years." She straightened the papers into a neat pile. "I won't leave my home. I won't let Blackwell win." Mitchell nodded, respecting her resolve. "I might have a proposition for you then." Lily eyed him warily. "What kind of proposition?" "I need help at my ranch," he said. "My housekeeper left to care for her daughter in Santa Fe. I need someone to cook for the hands, manage the household." "You're offering me a job?" Lily asked incredulously. "With room and board," Mitchell confirmed, "and fair wages." Lily narrowed her eyes. "Is this more charity, Mr. Prescott?" "Mitchell," he corrected. "And no, it's not charity. I genuinely need the help. You'd be doing me a favor." She considered him for a long moment. "I can cook reasonably well, and I know how to keep house." "Then it's settled." Mitchell stood. "Pack your things. You can move in today." Today. But what about Blackwell can't throw you off this land if you've already left, Mitchell pointed out. And my ranch is close enough that you can check on things here regularly. Lily felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start away to earn money honestly and keep her dignity intact. All right, she agreed, but I have conditions. Mitchell raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. I want a written agreement about my wages and duties, and I want to be clear that this is temporary just until I can get back on my feet. Of course, he agreed readily, and I want to start paying you back for what you spent on me. Mitchell began to protest, but she held up a hand. My father was right. My pride needs this. You can take it from my wages a little each month. After a moment, Mitchell nodded. Have it your way, Lily. By mid-afternoon, Lily's few possessions were loaded into Mitchell's wagon. She took one last look at the ranch house where she'd spent her entire life, then climbed up beside Mitchell on the wagon seat. Ready? He asked. Lily nodded, unable to trust her voice. As they pulled away, she didn't look back. The past was behind her now. Somehow she would build a future. The Triple P Ranch was larger than Lily had imagined. The main house was a substantial two-story structure built of solid timber, with a wide porch wrapping around three sides. Several outbuildings surrounded it, a bunkhouse for the ranch hands, a cookhouse, stables, and storage sheds. Beyond stretched fenced pastures where cattle grazed lazily in the autumn sun. It's beautiful, Lily breathed as they approached. It's home, Mitchell said simply, but she could hear the pride in his voice. He showed her to a comfortable bedroom on the second floor, with windows facing east toward the mountains. My room is at the other end of the hallway, he explained, with 3 empty bedrooms between. Your reputation won't suffer by staying here. Lily appreciated his consideration. A single woman living in a bachelor's home could easily become the subject of gossip, even in a place as remote as this. Thank you, she said, for everything. Mitchell nodded. Supper's at 6. The hands eat in the cookhouse, but I take my meals in the main house. You're welcome to join me, or eat separately if you prefer. I'll join you, Lily decided. If I'm to cook your meals, I should know your preferences. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I'm not particular, but I'll look forward to the company. That evening, after preparing a simple meal of beef stew and cornbread, Lily sat across from Mitchell at the large oak dining table. The silence between them was awkward at first, neither knowing quite what to say. How many men work for you? Lily finally asked. 6 regular hands, Mitchell replied, more during roundup and branding. Good men, all of them. And you built all this in 10 years. She gestured around the well-appointed dining room. Mitchell nodded. Started with nothing but a tent and 100 acres. Worked cattle drives, saved everything I earned, bought more land when I could. My father said you fought in the war. A shadow crossed Mitchell's face. I did. He also mentioned you lost family. Mitchell set down his spoon, his expression unreadable. Your father was well informed. Lily immediately regretted bringing up what was clearly a painful subject. I'm sorry. It's not my place to ask such personal questions. No, it's all right, Mitchell sighed. Yes, I lost my family, my parents and younger sister. Our farm in Pennsylvania was burned during the fighting. After the war, there was nothing to go back to. Is that why you came west? Partly. Mitchell's eyes were distant. Mostly I wanted to build something new, somewhere the land wasn't soaked in blood and memories. Lily understood that feeling, the need to start fresh. Have you found peace here? Mitchell considered the question seriously. Most days. The work helps, building something lasting. The conversation shifted to safer topics: ranch operations, the coming winter, Lily's duties. By the time they finished eating, the initial awkwardness had disappeared. I'll wash up, Lily said, gathering the dishes. I usually do it myself, Mitchell admitted. Well, now you have me. The words came out more intimate than she'd intended, and a flush crept up her cheeks. To help with such things, I mean. Something flickered in Mitchell's eyes, but he merely nodded. Good night, Lily. Sleep well. In the days that followed, Lily settled into life at the Triple P. She rose before dawn to prepare breakfast, then spent her days cleaning, washing, mending, and preparing meals. The work was hard but satisfying, and Mitchell proved to be a considerate employer. The ranch hands weathered men with rough manners, but kind hearts quickly warmed to her. They wiped their boots before entering the house and removed their hats in her presence. One of them, an older man called Hank, told her confidentially, "Boss hasn't seemed this content since I've known him. Having a woman's touch around the place does him good." Lily wasn't sure how to respond to such observations. She told herself she was simply an employee, yet she couldn't deny the way her heart quickened whenever Mitchell entered a room, or how she found herself taking special care with his meals and mending. For his part, Mitchell maintained a respectful distance. He was unfailingly polite, appreciative of her efforts, but never presumptuous. Each evening they shared supper and conversation, gradually revealing more of themselves to each other. She learned that he'd been a lieutenant in the Union Army, that he could read Latin and Greek, that he had a younger brother somewhere in California whom he hadn't seen in years. He discovered that she loved poetry, that she could identify any bird by its song, that her mother had taught her to play piano before dying of fever when Lily was 12. "I miss music," she confessed one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Pa sold our piano years ago." The next day, a wagon arrived from Carson City with a small upright piano. Lily stared in disbelief as the delivery men positioned it in the corner of the sitting room. "You can't possibly have bought this for me," she protested when Mitchell appeared. "For the house," he corrected. Every proper home should have music. That evening, after the dishes were washed, Lily sat at the piano. Her fingers were stiff at first, unpracticed, but gradually the melodies returned. She played hymns and folk songs, the simple tunes her mother had taught her. When she finished, she turned to find Mitchell standing in the doorway, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. "Thank you," she said softly. He inclined his head slightly. "The pleasure is mine." As autumn deepened toward winter, Lily found herself riding with Mitchell to check on her father's ranch once a week. Each time, she expected to find Blackwell's men tearing it down or strangers living there, but it remained untouched, gathering dust and memories. Why hasn't Blackwell claimed it? She wondered aloud during one such visit. Mitchell, who was repairing a loose shutter, paused. "I may have had a conversation with him." Lily turned to him sharply. "What kind of conversation?" "The kind that reminds a man that reputation matters, even out here." Mitchell hammered a nail with more force than necessary. "I suggested it might look bad if he threw a grieving daughter off her family land too quickly." "You threatened him." "Not exactly." Mitchell met her gaze steadily. "Let's just say I appealed to his sense of self-preservation." Lily wasn't sure whether to be grateful or angry. "I don't need you fighting my battles, Mitchell." "I know you don't." His voice was gentle. "But sometimes it helps to have an ally." The word ally hung between them, somehow insufficient for what they had become to each other over these weeks. Friend seemed too casual, employer-employee too formal. Whatever it was, Lily found herself drawn more and more to the quiet, thoughtful man who had saved her from a terrible fate. The first snow fell in early December, blanketing the ranch in pristine white. Lily woke to find Mitchell already outside, clearing paths between the buildings. She watched him from her window, his broad shoulders moving rhythmically as he shoveled, his breath forming clouds in the cold morning air. Something warm unfurled in her chest, a feeling she was becoming increasingly unable to deny. She was falling in love with Mitchell Prescott. The realization didn't shock her as much as she might have expected. Perhaps some part of her had known from the moment he'd intervened on that fateful day in Sagebrush Springs. What troubled her was not the feeling itself, but what to do about it. He was her employer, her benefactor. She was in his debt, literally and figuratively. How could she speak of love when the scales between them were so unbalanced? As winter deepened, the ranch became increasingly isolated. Heavy snows made travel to town difficult, and the days shortened, keeping everyone close to home. Evenings were spent in the sitting room, Lily at the piano or mending while Mitchell read aloud from his extensive library. On Christmas Eve, Lily prepared a special dinner: roast beef, potatoes, fresh bread, and an apple pie. She had saved a small sum from her wages to buy Mitchell a gift, a fine leather-bound journal she'd ordered from a catalog and hidden away for weeks. The ranch hands had been given the day off to celebrate in town, leaving Lily and Mitchell alone in the main house. She set the table with the best china and lit candles, her heart fluttering with anticipation. When Mitchell entered the dining room, he stopped short, his eyes widening at the elaborate spread. "What's all this? Christmas Eve," Lily explained unnecessarily. "I thought we might celebrate properly." Mitchell smiled, a full, genuine smile that transformed his usually solemn face. "It's perfect." During dinner, they talked easily, the conversation flowing naturally between them. Mitchell seemed more relaxed than Lily had ever seen him, his usual reserve softened by the holiday spirit and perhaps the glass of wine he'd had with dinner. "I have something for you," he said as they finished their pie. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box wrapped in brown paper. Lily's fingers trembled as she unwrapped it. Inside was a delicate silver pendant, a lily exquisitely crafted, hanging from a fine chain. "Mitchell," she breathed, "it's beautiful." "It reminded me of you," he said simply. "Strong but delicate." Lily blinked back tears. "I have something for you too." She handed him the wrapped journal. "It's not nearly as fine as your gift, but—" Mitchell unwrapped it carefully, his expression softening as he ran his fingers over the embossed leather cover. "This is exactly what I needed. Thank you, Lily." "You once told me you wanted to build something lasting," she explained. "I thought perhaps you might want to record your story." Their eyes met across the table, the candlelight flickering between them. Something shifted in that moment, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Mitchell stood and came around the table, taking the necklace from its box. "May I?" Lily nodded, turning so he could fasten it around her neck. His fingers brushed her skin, sending a shiver down her spine. When she turned back, he was standing very close, his eyes searching hers. "Lily," he began, his voice low, "I've tried to keep a proper distance. You work for me, and I never want you to feel obligated or uncomfortable." "I don't," she assured him, her heart hammering. "But these months with you here—" He continued, struggling for words. "I find myself thinking of you as much more than my housekeeper." Lily took a deep breath. "What do you think of me as? As the woman I've come to care for deeply." Mitchell took her hand carefully, as if she might pull away. "The woman I find myself wanting to build a future with." Tears sprang to Lily's eyes. "I've been so afraid to speak of my feelings. The debt between us—" "There is no debt," Mitchell interrupted. "Whatever I paid to Blackwell was worth every penny to bring you into my life. But how can we start something when our beginning was so unequal?" Mitchell considered this. "Perhaps we can't erase our beginning, but we can decide what happens next." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "All I know is that I love you, Lily Redmond, not because I saved you, but because of who you are, your strength, your determination, your kind heart." Lily felt as if her heart might burst. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I've loved you since that first day when you stood against 3 men to help a stranger." Mitchell's smile was tender as he leaned forward to kiss her, a gentle meeting of lips that held the promise of more to come. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. "I want to court you properly," he said. "Not as my employee, but as the woman I hope might someday be my wife." Lily laughed softly. "We've shared a home for months. I'd say your courtship is well underway." "Then perhaps I should speak more plainly." Mitchell took both her hands in his. "Will you marry me, Lily? Not right away, we can wait until you're ready, but I want you to know my intentions." Lily felt tears of happiness spill onto her cheeks. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, I'll marry you." Outside, snow began to fall again, dusting the ranch in fresh white. But inside, warmth and joy filled the house that had become Lily's home. The new year brought changes to the Triple P Ranch. Lily officially moved from employee to Mitchell's fiancé, though she insisted on continuing her duties around the house. "I won't be idle just because our relationship has changed," she told Mitchell firmly. He wisely didn't argue. News of their engagement spread quickly through the territory. Most reactions were positive. The ranch hands were particularly pleased, having grown fond of Lily and noticing the positive effect she had on their boss. But not everyone was supportive. Gerald Blackwell made his displeasure known during one of their infrequent trips to town. He cornered Lily outside the general store while Mitchell was speaking with the blacksmith. "Well, well," Blackwell drawled, his small eyes gleaming with malice. "Looks like you found a way to pay your father's debts after all. Spread your legs for the right man, did you?" Lily's face burned with anger. "You disgust me." "Does Prescott know about your arrangement with me?" Blackwell continued. "How you were supposed to work in my establishment? I wonder what he'd think if he knew exactly what services you were meant to provide." "He knows everything," Lily replied coldly. "Unlike you, he's a man of honor." Blackwell's expression hardened. "You think you're better than me now with your rich fiancé and your fine clothes, but I still own your father's land. I could burn it to the ground tomorrow." "That land isn't worth the effort it would take to destroy it," came Mitchell's voice from behind them. He stepped to Lily's side, his expression dangerous. "But if you touch it or speak to my fiancé again, you'll answer to me." Blackwell's face paled slightly, but he maintained his sneer. "Enjoy your purchase, Prescott. I hear second-hand goods aren't worth the price." Mitchell moved so quickly that neither Lily nor Blackwell saw it coming. One moment he was standing calmly beside her, the next, Blackwell was sprawled in the dirt, blood spurting from his nose. "You broke my nose." Blackwell howled, scrambling backward. Mitchell stood over him, his voice deadly quiet. "Consider yourself fortunate that's all I broke. Speak of Miss Redmond that way again and you'll need more than a doctor." The incident was the talk of Sagebrush Springs for weeks, elevating Mitchell's standing among those who despised Blackwell, and adding to Lily's growing reputation as a woman who'd risen above difficult circumstances. As spring approached, wedding preparations began in earnest. Lily ordered a dress from Carson City, and Mitchell arranged for a judge to come perform the ceremony in April, when the weather would be fair enough for guests to travel from neighboring ranches and towns. One morning in late March, Lily was surprised to receive a letter addressed to her, delivered by a ranch hand returning from town. The handwriting was unfamiliar, and there was no return address. She opened it cautiously, then gasped as she read the contents. Mitchell, who was reviewing ledgers at his desk, looked up in concern. "What is it?" Lily handed him the letter, her hand trembling. "It's from my father's banker in Santa Fe. Apparently, Pa had a small investment there that finally paid off a silver mine he bought shares in years ago. The banker's been trying to locate me. Mitchell skimmed the letter. $500, he noted. That's a substantial sum. It's over half what you paid Blackwell, Lily said, her eyes lighting with possibility. I can start repaying you properly. Mitchell shook his head. The money is yours, Lily, your inheritance. But I want to settle what's between us, she insisted. Don't you see, as long as I'm in your debt, there's an imbalance. Mitchell took her hands. What's between us isn't about money, it never was. For me it is, Lily said firmly. Please, Mitchell, let me do this. After a long moment, Mitchell nodded. If it means that much to you, but I have a condition of my own. What's that? We use part of it to buy back your father's land from Blackwell, make it a wedding present to ourselves. Lily's eyes widened. He'll never sell to us. Everyone has a price, Mitchell said with quiet confidence, and Blackwell's is usually lower than most when actual cash is involved. The next day, they rode together to Sagebrush Springs. Blackwell was holding court in his saloon when they entered, his broken nose still discolored and swollen. The room fell silent as Mitchell and Lily approached his table. Well, Blackwell drawled, if it isn't the happy couple, come to offer me an invitation to your wedding. Mitchell remained expressionless. We've come to make you a business proposition. Blackwell's eyebrows rose. I'm listening. The Redmond property, Mitchell said. Name your price. Laughter burst from Blackwell. Not for sale, Prescott. I've got plans for that land. $300, Lily said clearly. Cash. Blackwell's laughter died as he studied her face. You don't have that kind of money, girl. Lily withdrew an envelope from her reticule. I do now. For a moment, greed and spite warred on Blackwell's face. Finally, he shook his head. 500, not a penny less. The property isn't worth half that, Mitchell countered. 350, 450. 400, Mitchell said with finality. Take it or leave it. Blackwell drummed his fingers on the table, eyes narrowed. At last he extended his hand. 400. Cash now, deed signed today. By sunset, the Redmond ranch legally belonged to Lily once again. As they rode back to the Triple P with the deed safely tucked in Mitchell's saddlebag, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Thank you, she said, reaching across to squeeze Mitchell's hand. This means more than I can say. It's your legacy, Mitchell replied. It should belong to you. What will we do with it? Lily wondered. It's too small to be profitable as a cattle ranch, and the house needs too many repairs to live in. Mitchell considered this. Maybe it doesn't need to be profitable. Maybe it could serve another purpose. Like what? A place for new beginnings, he suggested. For people who need a fresh start like we did. The idea took root in Lily's imagination. We could fix it up, offer it to families in need at least until they can get on their feet. Mitchell smiled. I like the way you think, Lily Redmond. Soon to be Lily Prescott, she reminded him with a smile of her own. Their wedding day dawned clear and bright, the kind of perfect spring morning that seemed created for new beginnings. The Triple P was transformed for the occasion, with wildflowers decorating the porch and tables set up in the yard for the celebration afterward. Lily prepared in what had been her bedroom, but would soon be converted to a guest room. Her wedding dress was simpler than she'd originally ordered, a cream-colored gown with lace at the collar and cuffs, elegant but practical. Around her neck hung the silver lily pendant Mitchell had given her on Christmas Eve. A knock at the door revealed Hank's wife, Martha, who had come to help her dress. You look beautiful, Miss Lily, the older woman said warmly. The boss won't know what hit him. Lily laughed, though her stomach fluttered with nerves. Is everything ready? More than ready, Martha assured her. The judge arrived an hour ago, and Mr. Prescott's been pacing the study like a caged mountain lion. I think he's afraid you might change your mind. Never, Lily said with certainty. When the time came, Lily descended the stairs alone. She had no family to give her away, but that seemed fitting somehow. She was giving herself to Mitchell freely, her own woman making her own choice. He waited for her on the porch, where an arch of spring flowers had been erected. The judge stood ready, and the ranch hands and neighbors gathered to witness the union. But Lily saw only Mitchell, handsome in his best suit, his eyes lighting with wonder as she approached. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he whispered as she reached him. The ceremony was brief but meaningful, their vows spoken clearly for all to hear. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Mitchell kissed her with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes. The celebration continued well into the evening, with food and music and dancing under the stars. As the night grew late, Mitchell led Lily away from the festivities toward the house that was now truly their shared home. In the privacy of their bedroom, his room, now theirs, Mitchell took her face between his hands. "Are you happy, Mrs. Prescott?" Lily's heart swelled with love. "Happier than I ever thought possible." As they sealed their marriage with a kiss, Lily reflected on the strange journey that had brought her here. From the brink of a life of degradation to this moment of profound joy and promise, all because one man had seen her worth when she was at her lowest point. Mitchell had bought her freedom and asked nothing in return. But what he received, her heart, her love, her future, was worth far more than any price that could be paid. Over the years that followed, the Triple P Ranch flourished under their joint stewardship. Mitchell's cattle business expanded, and Lily added sheep to their operation, diversifying their income. They worked side by side, equal partners in all things. True to their plan, they restored the Redmond ranch and established it as a haven for those in need. Families down on their luck, widows with children, men seeking honest work, all found temporary shelter and a fresh start at what came to be known as Redemption House. 2 years after their wedding, Lily gave birth to their first child, a son they named Henry, after her father. A daughter, Emma, followed 18 months later. Their family was completed 3 years after that with the arrival of twins, James and Joseph. The children grew strong and healthy on the ranch, learning the value of hard work and compassion from parents who led by example. Mitchell proved to be a devoted father, passing on his knowledge of ranching, his love of books, and his unwavering sense of honor to his children. Lily watched her family with endless gratitude. Sometimes, especially on quiet evenings when Mitchell sat reading to the children or teaching them to ride, she would remember that day in Sagebrush Springs when their paths had first crossed. How close she had come to a life of misery, and how one man's unexpected intervention had changed everything. Gerald Blackwell eventually left the territory after his saloon burned down under suspicious circumstances. Rumors suggested he'd angered the wrong customer, though nothing was ever proven. Few mourned his departure. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Mitchell surprised Lily with a trip to San Francisco, their first real vacation since their marriage. While the children stayed with trusted ranch hands and their wives, Mitchell and Lily spent 2 glorious weeks exploring the city, attending the theater, and simply enjoying each other's company away from the demands of ranch life. On their last night, as they stood on the balcony of their hotel room overlooking the bay, Mitchell wrapped his arms around Lily from behind. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. Lily leaned back against him, secure in his embrace. "Not a single one. Even though I bought you." There was a hint of teasing in his voice, but also a trace of the old concern. Lily turned in his arms to face him. "You never bought me, Mitchell Prescott. You bought my freedom. There's a world of difference." Mitchell kissed her forehead. "Smartest investment I ever made." "And I'm still paying dividends," she quipped, rising on tiptoes to kiss him properly. Later, As they lay together in the comfortable hotel bed, Lily reflected on how far they'd come. From that first desperate day to this moment of contentment and security, it was a journey neither could have anticipated but both had embraced wholeheartedly. "What are you thinking about?" Mitchell asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "About how sometimes the worst day of your life can lead to the best years of your life," Lily answered. "If my father hadn't sold me to Blackwell, we might never have met." Mitchell's expression grew solemn. "I've thought about that too. I hate what you went through, but I can't regret where it led us." "Nor can I," Lily agreed, nestling closer to him. "We've built something beautiful together, Mitchell, a family, a home, a legacy. And it's only the beginning," he promised, wrapping her in his arms as they drifted toward sleep. When they returned to the Triple P, life resumed its familiar rhythms. The seasons turned, the children grew, the ranch prospered. Through drought and blizzard, good markets and bad, Mitchell and Lily faced each challenge together, their partnership strengthened by years of shared purpose and deepening love. On the 20th anniversary of the day Mitchell had intervened in Sagebrush Springs, he presented Lily with a leather-bound book. Inside, she found their story, written in his precise handwriting from that first encounter to the present day. "You once gave me a journal," he reminded her. "I finally found the right words to fill it." Lily read it aloud that night after the children were in bed, tears occasionally blurring her vision as Mitchell's words brought their shared past vividly to life. When she finished, she closed the book gently. "This is our legacy," she said softly. "Not just the ranch or redemption house, but this story of how love can grow from the most unlikely beginnings." Mitchell took her hand, his thumb brushing over the wedding ring he'd placed there 2 decades earlier. "I'd do it all again," he said. "Every moment from the first time I saw you." "So would I," Lily agreed, her heart full to bursting. "Every step led us here, and here is exactly where we belong." Outside their window, the vast expanse of their ranch stretched toward the horizon, a testament to what they'd built together. Inside, the warmth of their home reflected the love that had flourished between them, a love born when one man refused to let another man's daughter be sold, when a cowboy bought her freedom and asked nothing in return. But he'd received everything in exchange: a lifetime of love, a family to cherish, and the knowledge that sometimes the most precious things in life come not from what we take, but from what we give freely, with no expectation of return.